Yeah, so the Seven Hungers is a really it's been a critical bit over previous years, and this started as it started from Mary Bird's theory. There was three to start with: stimulation, recognition, structure, and what it basically starts out with, and it's been added to as I've gone through over the years, but these hungers that we have. So we get in the Western world now, we get our need for food and shelter met quite easily, but we have other needs that need fulfillment. And when we was coming to the end of the training one day, the therapist said, I'm not sure about AA because you're just kind of replacing one drug with another, one addiction with another. And I was like, and I walked out and I was devastated. I was like, put her on a pedal stool. And this thing that I'd spent a year that worked for me, it was getting questioned, and it made me really think about it. And I'm like, well, all right, well, why does it? There's got to be a reason why it works. Why does it work? And I rang the guy who was sponsoring at the time, and I'm like, he said, look, it just does. You don't have to try and work everything out. It just does. And that was never enough. So I'm like, right, I've got to understand more about this. Like, why is it working? And I really sat there and I thought, do you know what? As you look at the decisions that we make, so if I just talk through the hungers, we've got stimulation, which is we're talking now, the cells in the body, the fire. We do that through the way we talk, we do that through the activities that we get, but the cellular nature of the body is constantly firing through its electromagnetic charge. We've got our hunger for security, to feel safe and validated. We've got the hunger for recognition, which whether we see that on the external level or we hold doors for strangers, we want to fit into the wider group. We've got the hunger for connection, the need to feel in connection with humanity and others and ourselves. And then we've got the hunger for meaning, i.e. what we were just talking about. Every situation that comes up, we give meaning to the situation and the meaning that we have about the path that we're on. And we have the hunger, the natural desire, just like we've talked about with the plant, to grow. It's naturally in us to get forward, to move, to learn, or to grow forward. So these seven hungers make up the framework. And what became really apparent to me is that if we're not serving them healthily, we will choose unhealthy ways of serving them over none, because none is death. So I'll give you an example of someone throwing a brick through a window as a kid. It's not a very successful strategy, but it's feeding the recognition hunger. You might be part of a gang. It's feeding the connection hunger. And then you look at all the activities that we do and all the addictive things that we have, like alcohol, drugs, sex, work, social media, shopping. They tick every single hunger. And that's why they're addictive. So if I put the two spectrums next to each other and said, right, you've got, alcoholism, which ticks every hunger, but then I look at AA, well, that ticks every hunger as well. Because there's structure the same times every week, there's 300 meetings, there's stimulation, there's connection, there's recognition. I've done 3 days, 3 months, There's growth, there's new meaning. If you sit in a pub with a group of 10 people and sit in AA with a group of 10 people, it comes back to the environment. But it's well, why does it work? We talk about environment change. Well, why? Well, that's one of the fundamental reasons why. So I remember about 5 years ago thinking, wow, right, well, do you know what I'm going to do for the next 2 weeks? I'm just going to get rid of all the business stuff out of my diary. I'll still do it. I'll still do some, but I'm not going to plan. And I'm just going to fill my diary with things that serve my hungers healthily and see what happens. So some things you can do in a minute, some things that take 10 minutes, some things that, you can do in a day. Like, we're sat here now, it's feeding our hungers. It might be a cold shower, it might be a run around the park, it might be going to the gym. It might be doing something with our children or whatever. But so you draw a list up of activities of all this and you start slotting them in the diary. And just mindfully putting 3 things in a day that is serving your hungers, it makes a massive difference. And the rest just, you kind of then trust in the process.
Removing the addictions.
So this was obviously after I mean, what happens is when you look at them, when anyone's coming into therapy, I always do the assessment. And they're always being served in an unhealthy way. If you had a spectrum and you said, right, stimulation, 10 positive, 10 negative. And then over the last 2 weeks, you wrote down everything that you were doing, like everything. So it's a full audit, from like how much conversations you had with family members, for example, friends, TV, all this different stuff. And it's up to the individual to assess it. So for someone else, I don't watch any TV, but the last month or so, I'm like, I want a bit of a distraction. So I've watched Landman. I've loved it. I probably won't watch anything else but so I've enjoyed doing that. Whereas if you're watching TV every night for 2 hours and that's like, what you do every night, then that might be differently when you really look at it. So having this assessment of how you're spending the time is critical. And then even just removing a few of those things and adding some of the things in off your new list can make a massive difference. And then the rest of it, you've just got to trust the process. You've got to hand it over. And you've just got to let, that's what you are in control of, the things that you're doing. So when we go back to that framework with the time, and I was saying like, again, commonly known, putting the things in that only you can do as the leader of the business and trying to farm everything else out. The other thing that goes in there are the 7 hungers activities. So what is in your diary on a daily basis that's serving you in a healthy way, that's nurturing you? Because that is the fundamental part that then drives everything. That's the foundation that's needed for growth when you're serving the roots. And
do you think what most people do is they cut the roots off by not doing that, and then the rest tends to rot almost?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example really quickly. I had a client who is successful, different in the care sector, a number of different care businesses, and it was health that had scared it. Later on in life, done a lot of good work, but just had this like can't let go of work and really struggling. And then health, usually what happens is it brings it to the surface, and then you go, shit, I need to do something about it, but you don't really know what to do. So the dynamic there, eldest daughter always had the responsibility, made early decisions that other people's needs were more important than hers. What career did she go into? Care. So that worked. So it made her successful. And we went through the hungers, and it starts out like this. Oh, I go for a walk every Friday. So the pen starts going up here, and then it's like, oh, but my younger sister comes with me, and it's like, oh, she's a bit of a drain. And then it's like, do you know what? For the full hour, all she does is fucking talk about herself and her problems. It's like -10. Yeah. So like, well, why just go on your own? It's like, well, that's not what we do. We'll try it. And one day she went, I'm just going to walk on my own today. She went on her own. And this sounds so simple, but it's usually in the simplicity where the things shift. And just that walk on her own that day, she chose it probably for the first time that she allowed herself. So she chose herself. She chose her own needs over somebody else's need. And that was a big shift. And that then knocked onto the businesses. It knocked onto the activity in the businesses. She loved reading stories. She hated the admin. She didn't even need to really be there because the business was doing really well, but still felt all this responsibility for the business. It all stemmed back from that. Other people's needs are more important than my own. So it ended up that, in that half day, it was the storytelling that was done, and then it gradually, those small bits, ended up, and it results in an exit and moving on and life changing. But we subconsciously just carry on doing the same things, and it's when the impasse comes up that it's because part of us wants something different, but the other part of us doesn't want to let go of it. And that's where the friction comes in.
Now, if you enjoyed this clip and you're a coach, creator, or a business owner, and you want help in terms of how to scale your business using ads, AI, content, marketing, a lot of things we talk about on the show, then hit the link at the top line of our description in the YouTube video. You can book on a call with us and we'll walk through the whole process, audit your business, and show you where there's huge, huge opportunities for you to scale.